Hi, this is Leah from Blue Whale Arts, and today I'm going to show you how do you use the Suede-Tex Flocking, or it's now called Flock It. And it is so simple to do, and it really changes the inside or the outside of whatever project you're working on. So for example, this is a gourd piece that I had done. It's like a little bowl, a fruit holder, and I had it painted. And you can see here that I flocked half of it, and it really makes it feel like it's velvet inside, and it's seamless, and it looks like you spent a lot of time doing this. And it really changes the quality of what your gourd piece is going to look like and gives it a really nice finish. And so I'm going to walk you through the steps and what the supplies you're going to need. So if you grab a pen and paper, I can tell you what you're going to need. You're going to need what's called a mini flocker. And the mini flocker is what's used to apply the fibers. You need what's called undercoat adhesive. Now, I've heard people say they use glue and they use acrylic paint. I'm not a fan of those products using this to applying this, because this undercoat really gives you a nice, sturdy, strong, long-lasting finish. I actually had a bowl that somebody asked if you could wash it out inside, and I was at a show in Michigan and it was raining. I had no water, so we went out to a puddle and I washed half of the piece, and you could actually see the line where I washed and where I didn't, and it did not affect, by me putting water in there, did not affect the quality, the texture, or the look of the product. So it's a very sturdy, strong inside finish. The other thing you're going to need is some type of a box or a laundry basket, and then I put a plastic bag on there, because whatever fibers you don't use or gets blown out will end up being captured, and then you can collect them all, put them back in your bag. It's just like glitter, and you can save it. So your fibers go a very long way. You will run out of adhesive usually before you run out of fibers. And so what we're going to do is, the other thing you're going to need is a screwdriver to open your can, or something to open your can with. I keep some baby wipes in case I get some on my hands, because I tend to be a little bit messy with it. This does not clean up with soap and water, so you want to try to wipe it off. Now, the other thing is, I'm going to dump this one out. I did this one last night. And so normally, I'm going to talk a little bit backwards before we get going, is normally you're going to do this and you're going to let it set for 12 or 24 hours before you go and do this phase. But I want to show you something on this gourd. So I'm going to dump the fibers out, and you will see fibers are falling. And that is normal when you go to do this process. But this is the last step. But I wanted to show you that I also, if you're going to do a gourd that has holes, you're going to want to drill your holes first. And then I cover the holes up so that the glue and the adhesive doesn't come through the hole and get all over the outside of my gourds. And how do I know this? Because I've done it. So if you're going to do your holes first. Then when you go to use your needle, try to go from your hole, the first time through, go from your inside to your outside, so that you can push the fabric that way, and it doesn't create any chipping on the edge where you're going to be sewing. But you can see this one here. Let me get it all set. You can see the inside is just really nice and rich looking. So that's the flocking. So now how do you do it? It is so simple. You're going to be just amazed. So what I did earlier is, you take the tube, and let me just shake this all down, and you're going to fill your tube up with powder. So you're going to put your powder inside your tube, and you're going to set it aside. What you don't want to happen is, you do not want your adhesive to dry. It needs to be wet. So if you're doing a large project, you will have to do a little bit of overlapping, and you'll have to do it in sections. But most of the time, I try to do my projects in one section, so that you don't have to deal with the things. Now, normally I would stir this, and so you would need a stirring stick, but I used it last night and it should still be good. So I'm going to just go ahead and get going with here. And I like to use a foam brush. because I don't have to deal with the bristles, and I'm just going to come in and start applying it. If you are using dark colors, like the black, this dark brown, you do not need to really put a coat of paint on it. The instructions say to put a color similar or the same underneath. When it comes to the dark colors, I don't worry about it. When it comes to the light colors, it is definitely a must-have, because any staining or marking on your gourds will come through. Now, I love to use the red when I go to make any type of a Santa hat. It makes it look like fabric. So I would put it on the outside of my gourd. I would paint it with acrylic red, and then I would take my flocking adhesive and put it where the acrylic red is, similar to what we're doing here, the same thing. But then I would take the red flocking, and then any of the white boas and stuff would go on top, and it looks like you have a fabric hat. And I don't have any samples of those because I've sold all those pieces. Those are usually some of my pieces that sell first. But it really makes it so that it's a nice hat. And you can be a little bit heavy-handed on the adhesive. You don't need to be too heavy, depending on how much the gourd is absorbing. And you can see here that I'm just getting the whole thing with this adhesive, and I'm being careful not to get over my edge because I already finished the outside. So I do recommend that you do this first and still put tape around your edges and stuff so that you can make sure that you're not going to get it on the gourd. If you get it on the gourd, at least the gourd won't be finished, and you can use the appropriate I believe it's turpentine, but I would have to double check that, to clean up off the gourd, and you're not going to ruin your design and all the work that you've done. And you definitely want to do this. If you're anticipating doing any type of rim work, you are going to want to put this on first. So that way there, you're not going to have to try to get into your piece and not get any of the adhesive on, because I'll tell you, and it just is sticky. The other thing is to be aware of is this definitely has an odor to it. So if you're somebody sensitive to smells, I want you to be aware of that, because it does have a smell. When we ship this product, it has to go ground because it is considered a hazardous material for shipping purposes. So it definitely has to go ground surface per postal regulations. But wait till you see. You saw this piece beforehand, and it was painted like this purpley color. I don't know what I was thinking when I put the dye on. Or it might have been a black, and then it faded to this purpley look. So we're going to try to bring some life back into the piece, and maybe do some other things to it to help bring some back. So you can see it's all shiny, because if it's starting to dry, it's going to go dull. So you can see in here, it's all shiny. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly close this up, and I'm going to move this aside, my brush. And we're going to take this piece now, and we're going to put it inside the box. Oops, and I can see where I missed. So you want to make sure you don't miss anything. I recommend, if you find that you really miss a spot, don't try to patch it, because the patch will definitely show. Just go ahead, let it dry, and then the next day, after it dries, shake all the loose stuff out, go ahead and recoat with your adhesive, and go ahead and give it another coat of the fiber. I've had to do that a couple of times, and it works with no problem. So now I'm going to put this in here, and then we're going to just start. And you can easily see, you can see where I've added the fiber. It's getting dull looking. And you're just going to keep doing that. And if you've got a gourd that's in the round category, like that one I took out, I'll show you what I do with that. So I'm making sure, and I'm going to go in and reach this piece up so you can get a better look at it. But you can see I've got it all covered in the fiber now. Let me just move the box down and out of our way. And you can see here that, oops, let me get in the camera. We've got it covered. And you can see I missed a spot right in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw it back into my box, which normally I would leave it in there. And you can just go ahead and throw some more fiber on there and make sure it's all good. Alrighty, so that one's all good. So I am not going to touch it. It is very, very tempting to go ahead and try to shake out the fibers. I'm going to say resist that temptation because it does make a difference on your piece finishing. So tomorrow morning, I will take this, turn it upside down, and we will have a finished piece. And what it will look like is this one here. Now, when you're doing these inside of like something like this, you're going to want to make sure that you really check the angles up in here. And if you have to, you lean it up in the edge of the box and then flock it. You know, take your flocker and go ahead and use the flocker to push the powder into the fibers into the up in those corners. So when I do something like this, I will take it and really look at it and make sure that I have captured all of the edges. So that is the Down and Dirty on flocking. And you can see here, it just really is, it's changing the whole look of the piece just as this. And we're going to let it set. I hope this is helpful, and maybe you'll start trying some flocking on your future projects. Have a great day. Thanks. Don't forget to visit www.bluewhalearts.com.